First I walked, then I ran. I decided to push myself out of my comfort zone and try a late night hookup. The guy I had been talking to seemed normal enough, cute, into the same movies, nothing that set off alarms. I had verified he was real, so I told myself the uneasy feeling in the back of my mind was just nerves. But the moment I told him I was on my way, he asked for proof. I sent a picture of me in my car. He asked for my ETA. I told him 17 minutes. Then he asked again and again, about 15 times. I brushed it off as excitement, but the feeling in my stomach didn't go away. When I arrived, he asked for proof again. I sent a photo of his gate. He told me no one else was home, but there was another room in the apartment with the light on. He didn't explain it, and I didn't ask. He rushed me straight to his bedroom and immediately threw himself on me. For a hookup, that wasn't surprising, but something felt wrong. I didn't feel like he was into me. It felt like he was trying to distract me. He pulled my hair, hugged me too tightly, even tried to choke me. The whole time I had this crawling sense that someone else was watching. I couldn't shake it. When he stopped kissing me, he asked what was wrong. I said, nothing, and tried to get him talking, hoping it would calm me down. Instead, he started apologizing over and over. He said he wasn't good enough, that he was too fat, too ugly, and that he walked me to the door. I tried to soothe him. I don't know why, but he just kept repeating, I'm sorry, like he was stuck in a loop. After the 20th apology, I decided I need to leave. I told him he could walk me out. He got up, said okay, then immediately tried to kiss me again. When I pulled away, he grabbed me and said I could leave after he touched me. He tried to grope me. I shoved him off, and he looked genuinely shocked. He walked me toward the door, but not without trying to stop me 3 separate times, grabbing me, hugging me, trying to kiss me, holding me too tightly. When I finally reached the door and opened it, he grabbed my arm. And in that moment, everything about him changed. He looked like a nerdy, harmless guy all night, but when he grabbed me, his face twisted with anger. His grip was hard enough to hurt. I grabbed his wrist, and I squeezed until he let go, then stepped outside. What I remember most are his eyes. In those last seconds, they looked like someone capable of terrible things. I walked away calmly, checking behind me every few seconds to make sure he wasn't following. When I was halfway to my car, I ran. The drive home was a blur. I couldn't stop thinking about his eyes, about how quickly his demeanor shifted, about what he might have planned. The danger feeling wouldn't go away, so I stopped at a gas station and checked my car, inside, outside, underneath, making sure no one had attached anything to it. It sounds paranoid, but after what happened, I needed to be sure. When I finally got home, I hugged my dog for 10 minutes straight, before I could even sit down. I don't know if I'll tell anyone in my life about this. I've thought about reporting it, but what do I even say? I have no evidence, just a gut feeling that I narrowly avoided something awful. I just needed to get it out of my system, and now I'm going back to hug my dog. The weird encounter I had when I was 13. I grew up in a small town in Lithuania, the kind of place where you recognized almost everyone by sight. When I was 13, I was heading to the local post office one evening. It sits in a secluded spot between a couple of abandoned office buildings, and by the time I got there, it was just before 8 p.m. and getting dark. Most businesses were still open, but the area around the post office always felt a little isolated. As I was walking past one of the empty buildings, a man stepped out from behind the corner and greeted me. He looked to be around 60 to 65, average height, but big and clearly strong. I didn't recognize him, which was unusual for my town. I thought it was just an awkward moment, so I gave him a polite reply. Then he stepped closer and held out his hand. I shook it out of instinct. The second our hands met, I realized he wasn't going to let go. His grip was painfully tight. When I tried to pull back, he tightened it even more. He started talking casually, mumbling about the weather, then about how he used to be a boxer or a fighter. As he kept talking, he went into graphic detail about how he crushed his opponents and the injuries they suffered. Under normal circumstances, it might have sounded like bragging, but with his hand crushing mine and his other hand gripping my arm, it felt like a threat. I was 13. He was twice my size. I couldn't break free, so I just listened and tried to act normal, even forcing a smile. The whole thing lasted 5 to 10 minutes, though it felt much longer. I kept debating whether I should scream, but I didn't know if anyone would hear me in that empty stretch between buildings. Then, in the middle of one of his stories, he suddenly stopped. He let go of my hand and said, "See you soon," and walked away like nothing had happened. My hand was bleeding where his thumbnail had dug in. I went straight to the post office, called my mom, and waited inside because I was too shaken to walk home. I never saw him again. I'd lived in that town my whole life and knew every familiar face. He wasn't one of them, and I'm almost certain he didn't live there. It's been 7 years since it happened. I eventually got over the fear, but that encounter still sits with me. I don't know what he wanted, only how it felt in that moment, trapped in a stranger's grip while he talked about breaking people. Harassment at the gym. I'm 16, and I usually go to the gym in the afternoon, but tonight I went later than usual. The place was almost empty, just 2 or 3 people scattered around, quiet enough that every sound seemed louder. About 10 minutes into my workout, a man I never seen before walked in. He looked mid-40s, thin, pale, with a face that was hard to read. He said hi. I said hi back. Nothing strange. Yet. But after that, I kept catching him looking at me. Not quick glances, long, lingering looks. And every time I noticed, he was already smiling. Not a friendly smile, something else, something that didn't match the empty gym or the silence around us. It was a pull day for me and a leg day for him, but he kept choosing machines that were close to mine, always just a little too close. I tried to ignore it. When I moved to the ab crunch machine, I noticed the cable row directly in front of me. He came over at the same time and sat behind me for a moment, like he was waiting. Then he moved to the cable row and started using it sideways, not facing the machine, but facing me. He hadn't touched anything upper body related at all. It didn't make sense. I looked up and he turned his head towards me, that same smile, wide, fixed, like he was waiting for a reaction. That's when I decided to leave. I went to the locker room. It was empty, just me. I started changing quickly, hoping he'd stay out on the floor. About 30 seconds later, he walked in. He didn't go to a locker. He didn't change. He didn't even pretend to be there for a reason. He sat directly in front of me and watched. No blinking, no looking away. Just that same smile, stretched too wide, like he was enjoying something I couldn't see. I only changed my pants because I wanted to get out of there as fast as possible. The whole time he didn't move, he didn't speak, he just stared. I left the locker room, walked out of the gym, but the feeling stayed with me. The sense that he wasn't just being weird, but that he had some kind of intention behind it, something he wasn't saying. I keep replaying his face in my mind. He was very skinny, but his expression made him look wrong. Like the smile didn't belong to the rest of him, like he was imagining something while he watched me. I don't know if I was overthinking it, but I can't shake the feeling that something was off, really off. I'm not sure I should tell the receptionist or if I'm just being dramatic, but that smile hasn't left my head since. The man in the doorway. I grew up in small town Ohio, surrounded by cornfields and distant woods. Because we were so isolated, my family never worried about break-ins. The doors were always left unlocked. One night around 10 p.m., I was up late playing my Xbox. Eventually, I got tired and laid down. I've always been a restless sleeper, so I woke up a couple times during the night. The second time I woke up, I sat up, and I saw someone standing in the doorway. I only saw part of him, maybe a quarter of his body, just enough to know he was leaning in and watching me. As soon as he realized I was awake, he pulled back out of sight. I assumed it was my stepdad checking on me, so I got up to tell him I couldn't sleep. But when I stepped into the hallway, I froze. My mom and stepdad's bedroom door was shut. The door never shut quietly. It was off its hinges and took real effort to move. It made a loud, distinct sound every time they closed it, and I hadn't heard anything. There was no way someone had opened it, checked on me, and shut it again without waking me. That's when I realized the man I saw wasn't my stepdad. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. I just waited for the sun to come up and listened for the door to open. When it finally did, I checked, and my stepdad had been in the room the whole time. I'm honestly glad I didn't go looking for whoever I saw. I never heard a door shut, so whoever it was could have still been inside the house. When I told my parents, they were horrified and called the police. They searched the entire property but found no one. To this day, I still think about that night. I woke up to someone watching me sleep. Weird men I experienced when I was age 7. I'm 19 now, but this happened when I was 7. I never really talked about it, and I'm using a throwaway account because I just want to get it off my chest. When I was little, I was always outside on my pink Barbie bike, and I'd ride it around the neighborhood. My older cousin, I'll call him Jay, visited often back then. He was about 15, and he had a group of friends in the neighborhood around the same age. Whenever Jay was around, nothing strange happened. But whenever he wasn't, his friends acted off. They were older boys, maybe 15 or 16, and every time Jay wasn't with me, they'd circle around me on their bikes like a pack of weird, grinning hyenas. They'd block the sidewalk with their huge bikes towering over me. I was tiny, maybe 3 feet tall, barely up to their waist. They'd say things like, "Come with us, we want to show you something. You're such a pretty girl. Beautiful, come here." I didn't understand what they meant, but even at 7, I knew it felt wrong. Jay always showed up before anything escalated. He'd come right to me to tell me lunch was ready, and the boys would disappear the moment he arrived. They never tried anything when he was around. Then one day, Jay stopped visiting. He had started high school in his hometown, and my parents told his friends he wouldn't be coming back anymore. That was the day everything changed. I went out riding my bike like usual. It was around sunset, maybe 6 or 7 in the evening, and most people were already inside. The street was quiet. One of the older boys approached me alone. He looked older than the others, maybe 16. He rode up beside me and said, "Follow me. I want to show you something." I told him no and tried to pedal home. He kept following me, getting closer, repeating, "Come with me, pretty lady. You're so cute. Just come with me. Miss Beautiful, don't go home yet." I pedaled as fast as I could. When I reached my front yard, my parents were already outside. They looked tense. My mom said, "Someone was following you. Don't go outside for at least a week. That man looked dangerous." I turned around expecting him to be gone. He wasn't. He was standing across the street, half hidden behind a pole, watching our house. He didn't leave until my parents stepped toward him. Then he ran. After that day, I never saw any of them again. Not the boy who followed me, not the group who used to circle me, none of them. Looking back now, at 19, I understand exactly what they were trying to do, and I'm grateful every day that nothing worse happened. Went for a walk, got stalked. I was 18, living with my mom in Polk County, Florida. There wasn't much to do in our area, so I'd go on long walks. Sometimes 2 miles to McDonald's and back, just to get out of the house. One evening around sunset, I was on my way home. The stretch I was walking had a few houses, but it bordered a lake and some farmland. It was quiet, the kind of place where you might not see another person for a while. I walk fast, always have, and I was moving even quicker than usual because the light was fading and the bugs were getting worse. Every so often, I'd glance behind me, just out of habit, making sure nothing looked off. A car passed, and a moment later, I checked again. That's when I saw him. A man in a light gray hoodie. The hood pulled so low, I couldn't see his face. He was walking in the same direction I was, and something about him hit me wrong immediately. One of those gut-level warnings you don't ignore. I sped up. A few seconds later, I looked back again. He had sped up too. He was close enough now that I could hear him panting. That was it for me. I turned sharply into a small fenced-in neighborhood and ducked behind the side of a house, partly hidden by a tree. I stayed completely still and watched. He ran into the entrance of the neighborhood, actually running, looking around like he was trying to spot where I'd gone. Then he started heading deeper inside. The moment he turned away, I bolted. I have asthma, and I don't think I even run that hard in my life. By the time I made it out of there, I was shaking, crying, and dry heaving from the adrenaline. All I could think was whether I had just avoided something terrible. I never told this story online before, but I figured it was time. Trust your instincts. They're there for a reason.